Welcome to my channel. Family should be where the storm stops at the door. But what if that very place is the source of all pain and injustice? Will you choose silence or stand up? Here I tell you the hidden truths of favoritism and the scars that daughters are forced to endure. But don't leave just yet, because this is only the beginning. Stay tuned to see how I'll make them regret it, and exactly how high a price they'll pay for their cruelty. Stay with me until the very end of this story to see justice served. If you believe the truth must be revealed, hit like and subscribe to stand with me right now.
We need to cancel tomorrow. That was the text my mother, Colleen Reed, sent me at 11:51 p.m., less than 24 hours before my college graduation party. A party I had paid for myself. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just stood by the window and watched the catering van, which I had booked 6 months ago, pull out of the driveway. The reason? My sister Sierra was devastated about losing a brand deal with Skin Glow, a hair vitamin sponsorship worth maybe $3,000. According to my mother, we needed to hold space for her grief right now. Please understand, the text said. I understood perfectly. That was the moment the daughter they raised died. What was born in her place was something they would learn to fear. My name is Mallory Reed. I'm 22 years old, and for the past 8 years, I've been the invisible architect of my family's life. This is the story of how I walked away, and how they discovered, too late, that I wasn't just a daughter. I was the foundation. Let me introduce you to the Reed family of Buckhead, Atlanta. My father, Wesley Reed, 52, was once a successful consultant who built Reed Consulting Solutions in the late 90s. By 2016, when he refused to update his skills or adapt to changing markets, his empire crumbled. Now he survived on rental income from underwater properties and an ego larger than his bank account. I built empires, he liked to say. I don't do Excel spreadsheets. My mother, Colleen Reed, 49, was a former Miss Georgia runner-up who never quite accepted that her 15 minutes of beauty queen fame had expired in 1998. She spent her days curating an image of wealth and status, serving on the boards of 5 charity organizations where she did absolutely nothing except show up for photo opportunities. Her greatest obsession was restoring our family's relevance through my sister. Sierra Reed, 28, was the golden child. With her Instagram handle at Sierra Lux Life and 180,000 followers, 60% of them bots she'd purchased, she had dropped out of college sophomore year to pursue her influence career. She received a monthly allowance of $6,500 from our parents to maintain her image. In reality, she landed maybe 3 or 4 brand deals per year, each worth between $2,000 and $5,000. She was a full-time job with part-time income, and I was her unpaid staff. And then there was me, Mallory Reed, the shadow manager. I had just graduated with a 3.95 GPA in business administration.
This is a test recording.
While attending
to
school
demonstrate
full-time, I
professional
worked 20
vocal
hours a week
delivery.
as a virtual assistant, making $15 an hour. I used that money to pay for my textbooks, my application fees, my SAT prep courses. Everything my parents said builds character when I asked for help. But my real job, the one I'd held since I was 14 years old, was running the Reed household. I balanced the family budget because my father couldn't figure out Excel. I managed my mother's social calendar, tracking 12 events per month. I maintained my father's medication schedule, blood pressure pills, cholesterol medication, the daily routines he couldn't be bothered to remember. I arranged Sierra's travel itineraries, managed her PR crises when she tweeted something offensive, and ghost wrote her authentic Instagram captions. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end, because this story goes places you won't expect. The financial reality of the Reed family was a house of cards, and I was the one holding it together with invisible tape. Our Buckhead mansion, a 6,000 square foot monument to borrowed prestige, carried a mortgage of $1.2 million on a property worth maybe $1.8 million. My father's 2 rental properties were underwater. Between them all, the monthly expenses totaled $18,000. The monthly income? Barely $9,500. That left a deficit of $8,500 every single month. How did they survive? Credit cards maxed at $85,000 across 6 accounts. A line of credit with $95,000 drawn against a $120,000 limit. My mother's inheritance, once substantial, had been depleted funding Sierra's influencer career, which included a $22,000 bedroom renovation that Sierra posted about as self-funded interior design goals. I was the one who managed the payment schedules, rotating minimum payments, negotiating with creditors, finding balance transfer offers, performing financial acrobatics to keep the illusion alive. Without me, the entire operation would have collapsed years ago. The contrast was obscene. When I asked for $800 to pay for SAT prep classes, my father told me that struggle builds character. When Sierra wanted $18,000 for a content creator workshop in Malibu, essentially a vacation with 10 other influencers, my mother approved it as an investment in her personal brand. You might wonder why I stayed, why I cleaned up their messes for 8 years without screaming. For a long time, I thought I was just being a good daughter, but looking back, I understand what it really was. I was 8 years old when my father first took me to his office and showed me his spreadsheets. "You have my mind for numbers," he told me, his hand on my shoulder. "You're going to do great things." My mother called me her little problem solver and smiled when I helped her organize her social calendar. I believed that if I was useful enough, valuable enough, indispensable enough, they would finally see me. I thought my labor was the rent I had to pay to be loved. By 14, I understood that Sierra was the show pony, and I was the stable hand. Her Instagram had just crossed 10,000 followers, and suddenly, 90% of every family dinner conversation revolved around her. Should she accept this brand deal? Was her engagement rate trending up? Did this photo make her look authentic enough? I ate dinner alone most nights because Sierra needed to eat earlier for optimal lighting in her photos. When I graduated as valedictorian at 18 and received a full scholarship to the university, we celebrated with dinner at Olive Garden. Sierra's choice, because she was craving breadsticks. My father's comment: "Scholarships are for poor people. Just don't embarrass us." When Sierra wanted imported Italian furniture for her bedroom renovation, my mother called it a necessity. When I asked for help with textbooks, I was told to get a job.
My name is Renata
This is
Martinez,
what
and this is the story
psychologists
of how
call
I
the
learned that
fawn
sometimes the
response,
people who gave you
a
life are the
survival
same
mechanism in
ones who try to
dysfunctional
erase it.
families. You learn that your only value is your utility. You become the appliance, not the person. Love becomes transactional, and you spend your life trying to earn what should have been freely given. I didn't realize I was the load-bearing wall in a house of cards. But I was about to find out. 6 months before graduation, I started preparing. I opened a bank account at a credit union my parents didn't use. I rented a storage unit under my best friend Jamie Sullivan's name. Every week, I moved a box or two: childhood photos, important documents, my grandmother's necklace, the few things that mattered. I saved every penny for my virtual assistant job. By May, I had $8,900 in my secret account. And I planned a graduation party. 45 guests, actual friends, professors, work colleagues, people who saw me as more than a household appliance. I booked a private room at a small restaurant. I arranged catering. I sent invitations. Total cost: $4,200, every dollar earned by my own hands. When I mentioned the party to my family 3 weeks before the date, my mother's response was dismissive. "Oh, honey, graduation isn't that big of a deal. Don't expect us to pay for it." "I'm not asking you to pay," I said. "I just wanted to let you know." My father didn't even look up from his phone. Sierra asked if she could bring her photographer because she needed content. 1 week before the party, Sierra's brand deal with Skin Glow fell through. They chose a micro-influencer with better engagement rates. Sierra cried for 4 consecutive hours. My mother declared it a family crisis and said we all needed to be supportive. The night before my graduation party, I was finishing the final arrangements when my phone buzzed at 11:51 p.m. "We have to cancel tomorrow. Sierra is devastated. She needs us to hold space for her grief. The party can wait. You understand, right? Love, Mom." I stood at my bedroom window and watched the catering van pull away. I had already paid the $800 deposit. It was non-refundable. I spent the next 2 hours calling 45 people to cancel. Some didn't answer. I left voicemails. "I'm so sorry. There's been a family emergency. The party is canceled." At 2 a.m., Jamie showed up at my door. She'd seen my texts. She found me sitting on my bedroom floor, surrounded by decorations I'd never use. "You don't have to go back," she said. "I know," I told her. I pulled out a notebook and wrote a list. Things to do before I leave. It wasn't an impulse decision. It was surgical precision. The morning of my graduation, I woke up to an empty house. My family had left at 6:30 a.m. for Mountain Springs Spa Resort, an $800 per night retreat an hour away. 2 rooms, one for my parents, one for Sierra. They would spend the weekend helping Sierra process her trauma. On the kitchen counter, they'd left a generic greeting card with a $50 bill inside. No note, no message. Just cash, like a tip for good service. The card read, "Happy graduation, Mom and Dad." I stared at it for exactly 10 seconds. Then I added it to my stack and got to work. From 8 a.m. to noon, I packed 3 suitcases of clothes, my laptop and external hard drives, my birth certificate, social security card, diplomas, my grandmother's necklace, the one my mother never knew I had, my childhood journal. I left behind every family photo, every gift they'd ever given me. From noon to 3 p.m., I performed digital scorched earth. I changed 37 passwords. Banking, utilities, Wi-Fi, streaming services, social media accounts my mother managed for her charity boards. My father's email. He'd been using Mallory1234 as his password. Sierra's brand partnership contact database. My mother's social club mailing lists. I deleted files. 8 years of household budget spreadsheets.
And this is
Contact
stories
lists.
of how I'm live. Sometimes
Sierra's
the people who
content
gave you
calendar,
life
which
are the
I'd
teacher
planned
trying to
3
erase
months
it
in
and drag it.
advance. Gone. At 3 p.m., I wrote a letter. I used a single sheet of paper and placed it on the kitchen counter, weighted down with the house key. Dear Wesley, Colleen and Sierra, effective immediately, I am resigning from the position of Household Manager IT Support, Personal Assistant Crisis Consultant, Emotional Labor Provider. Daughter below is a list of the passwords I changed this morning. You'll need them. I am not running away. I am finally arriving. Do not contact me. Mallory Reed. Attached was the list of 37 accounts and their new passwords. At 4 p.m., I loaded my 2015 Honda Civic, paid in full with my own money. I locked the door behind me. I left the key on the counter next to my resignation letter. I got in my car and drove away from Buckhead. I didn't look back. I felt lighter, like gravity had suddenly released its hold on me. For 22 years, I had been Atlas, holding up their world. Now I had shrugged. I drove straight to the studio apartment I'd leased 3 weeks earlier under my middle name, Jane. It was in Midtown, 12 miles from Buckhead but a universe away. 450 square feet. $950 per month. Utilities included. I could afford it with my virtual assistant income. When I unlocked the door to my empty, quiet space, an air mattress, a folding table, one chair, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel scared. I felt like I had finally arrived. The first week, my phone was silent. I suspect they were waiting for me to crawl back, hungry and apologetic. In the narrative they'd constructed, I was the ungrateful child throwing a tantrum. They expected me to fail because they had never bothered to notice that I was the only one succeeding. They gave me 7 days. Then the ecosystem I had maintained for 8 years began its system failure. It started small. On day 8, the Wi-Fi at the estate went down. My father called me 3 times in a row. No voicemail. I knew exactly what was happening. He didn't know the password, didn't know the provider, didn't know that I negotiated the contract every year to keep the high-speed fiber optic running for Sierra's live streams. I didn't answer. 2 days later, Sierra missed her flight to Tulum for a brand trip. For years, I had been her personal travel agent, checking her in online, tracking her itinerary, arranging the Uber Black to the airport. This time, she showed up 3 hours late at the wrong terminal because she couldn't read a 24-hour clock. She thought 1400 meant 2 a.m. The brand partnership canceled. $5,000 gone. She left me a 90-second voicemail that was 90% screaming and 10% threats of legal action. "You sabotaged me! You're jealous! I'm calling a lawyer!" I listened to it once, saved it as evidence, and deleted it from my phone. I didn't reply. Sabotage, I thought, is active. I did nothing. That's not sabotage. That's reality. Then came the heavy hit. On day 15, my father missed a dinner meeting with Richard Montgomery, a potential angel investor interested in funding his comeback venture. The dinner was worth a potential $40 million investment. I used to sync his calendar, send confirmation emails, prep briefing notes. Without me, the calendar alert never went off. Wesley Reed sat in his study at 7 p.m., drinking scotch, while Richard Montgomery waited at the Capitol Grill downtown for 45 minutes before leaving an angry voicemail and pulling out of the deal. The voicemails shifted in tone from annoyed to frantic to vicious. "Mallory, this isn't funny anymore. Come home. We need to talk." Day 9, Wesley annoyed. "Sweetie, we're worried. Where are you? Just call us back, okay?" Day 12, Colleen, fake concern. "The house is falling apart. The Wi-Fi is down. I missed an important meeting. You will fix this." Day 16, Wesley demanding. "You are being selfish. This house is a disaster and you're playing games. Come home and fix this." Day 20, Colleen vicious. "I saved every voicemail. By week 4, I blocked all their numbers. They didn't miss me. They missed the service. They missed the infrastructure. And I realized something profound. I used to think they were powerful, but what I was looking at wasn't power. It was the illusion of power. My parents weren't wealthy. They were performing wealth. Their entire life was a stage set that looked like a marble palace from the front, but I was the one backstage holding up the plywood props. When you remove the stage manager, the audience finally sees that the castle is made of cardboard. For the first time in my life, I wasn't rushing backstage to tape it back together. I was sitting in the audience, watching the show collapse. Meanwhile, I wasn't just surviving. I was accelerating. I enrolled in summer courses to finish my degree requirements early. I worked my virtual assistant job during the day and attended classes at night. Jamie brought groceries twice a week. We'd sit on my air mattress eating ramen and watching the sunset through my single window. "Are you okay?" she asked one evening. "I'm not okay," I told her. "But I will be." I started seeing Dr. Raymond Cole, a therapist who specialized in family trauma. Our first session was 2 weeks after I left. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Guilty," I admitted, like I abandoned them. "Let me ask you something," Dr. Cole said, leaning forward. "Did they abandon you first?" I opened my mouth to defend them. The words died in my throat. Because the answer was yes. They'd abandon me every time they chose Sierra's feelings over my achievements. Every time they said, struggle builds character when I needed help. Every time they took my labor and gave nothing in return. That's what I thought, Dr. Cole said gently. By month 2, the cracks in the Reed empire had widened into chasms. I discovered their true financial situation by
My name is
accident.
Renata Martinez, and this is
I
the
was
story of how
browsing
I learned that
online
sometimes
property
the people
records
who
for
gave
a
you life are
research
the
paper
same
on
ones
Atlanta
who
real
try to
estate
erase it.
trends when I searched my old address out of curiosity. What I found made my blood run cold. The Buckhead house had been mortgaged twice. Outstanding debt: $1.2 million. Current property value: maybe $1.8 million. That meant only $600,000 in equity, and that assumed they could sell at market value, which was unlikely given that the housing market was cooling. My father's rental properties? Both underwater. One was worth $30,000 less than the mortgage. The other was breaking even at best. I did the math. Monthly expenses for the household: $18,000 minimum. Monthly income from rentals and my father's sporadic consulting work: $9,500 on a good month. Deficit: $8,500. How had they survived? I dug deeper, pulling their credit information from a database I had access to through my virtual assistant work. 6 maxed out credit cards totaling $85,000. A home equity line of credit: $120,000 limit, $95,000 drawn. My mother's inheritance from her parents, once over $200,000, was completely depleted. For years, I had been the one managing the payment schedules, rotating minimum payments across cards, negotiating with creditors, finding 0% balance transfer offers. I had been the financial acrobat keeping this circus in the air. Without me, they were in free fall. By month 3, the social collapse was well underway. Through mutual acquaintances, Buckhead was a small world. I heard the rumors. Colleen had missed the spring charity gala because she forgot to RSVP. She'd shown up to a junior league luncheon on the wrong day and made a scene when they turned her away. The board quietly asked her to step down, citing attendance concerns. Sierra had lost 3 more brand partnerships due to unprofessionalism. One company published a statement: "We value reliability and professionalism in our brand ambassadors." Her Instagram engagement was dropping 15% per month. Desperate to maintain appearances, she started buying followers using my father's credit card. $500 here, $800 there. The bots inflated her numbers but tanked her engagement rate further. My father's consulting business, already on life support, flatlined completely. Clients stopped calling after he missed meetings and failed to follow up. His comeback venture, a vague plan to consult for tech startups, died with Richard Montgomery's withdrawn investment. For the first time in their 30-year marriage, my parents were fighting about money. In month 4, Colleen sent me an email, 2,000 words long. It ranged from apologetic to manipulative to threatening. The key line: "We'll pay you $2,000 a month to come back and help. We're family. Family doesn't abandon each other." I typed my response carefully. "You don't miss me. You miss the services. Those are no longer available." I hit send and blocked her email address. By month 6, I had graduated summa cum laude with my 3.95 GPA. The ceremony was held online due to a campus policy change, which suited me perfectly. No family in the audience meant no disappointment. Just me, my diploma, and my pride. 3 days after graduation, I received a job offer. Operations coordinator at TechFlow Solutions, a fintech startup in downtown Atlanta. Salary: $68,000 per year. Benefits: health insurance, 401k matching, 3 weeks paid vacation. It was more than Sierra had ever made from influencing in a single year. I accepted immediately. I started working, building my savings, attending therapy twice a week. I joined a yoga class. I made new friends through work. For the first time in 22 years, I was living for myself. And I was thriving. But the Reed family wasn't done with me yet. In month 7, I decided to upgrade my living situation. My studio apartment had served its purpose, but I was ready for something better. I found a one-bedroom loft in Midtown with exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, and enough space to actually breathe. Rent: $1,650 per month. With my salary, it was easily affordable. I had $12,000 in savings. My credit score, the last time I'd checked 6 months ago, was 720. I was financially stable, professionally employed, and ready to move forward. I walked into the leasing office on a Tuesday afternoon. The agent, Jennifer Thompson, was warm and professional. We toured the loft. I loved it. The application process was smooth, until it wasn't. Jennifer was typing at her computer, her smile bright. Then her face changed. The smile faded. Her fingers stopped moving. She turned the monitor slightly away from me. She hesitated. I'm sorry. There's an issue with your credit check. My stomach dropped. What issue? My credit score was 720 last time I checked. Jennifer's voice dropped to a whisper. It's showing. Massive outstanding debt. Multiple accounts. This can't be right. Let me see, I said. I can't show you the screen, she said apologetically. Privacy policy, but you can pull your own report. I really am sorry. I walked to my car in a daze. I sat in the driver's seat, air conditioning humming, and opened my laptop. I pulled up Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, all 3 credit bureaus. What I saw wasn't an error. It was an execution. I had expected to see one student loan, $8,500 being paid down, and one credit card, $1,200, paid on time every month. What I saw instead were 7 new accounts. Chase Sapphire. Reserve asterisk. Opened April 15th, 3 weeks after I left. Asterisk. Credit limit, $25,000 asterisk. Current balance, $24,850 asterisk. Status, 60 days past due. American Express Gold. Asterisk. Opened May 3rd. Asterisk. Credit limit, $30,000 asterisk. Current balance, $29,200 asterisk. Status, 30 days past due. Capital One Venture. Asterisk. Opened June 1st. Credit limit, $15,000. Current balance, $14,900. Status, current, barely. Lending Club Personal Loan. Opened July 10th. Original amount, $50,000. Current balance, $49,200. Status, current total fraudulent debt, $118,950. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. Instead, a cold, metallic calm settled over me. I scrolled through the transaction history on each account. April 12th, $4,200. Restoration Hardware. Sierra's Bedroom Furniture. April 28th, $8,500. Mercedes-Benz of Buckhead. G-Wagon lease down payment. May 15th, $2,800. Influencer Summit. Miami, Sierra's networking event. May 30th, $3,400. Saks Fifth Avenue, Sierra's wardrobe. June 3rd, $6,200. B&H. Photo video, Sierra's content creation equipment. June 20th, $1,950. Buckhead Med Spa, Botox fillers facial treatments. July 8th, $12,000. Baccarat Hotel New York. Sierra's birthday weekend. Every single charge was for Sierra. Every single one. The timeline was perfect. The first account opened 3 weeks after I left, right when they realized I wasn't coming back. The applications escalated as their desperation grew. By July, they were taking out personal loans in my name. I knew exactly how they'd justified it. In their minds, this wasn't theft. This was collection of back pay. They believed I owed them this, for the food they fed me, the roof they provided, the clothes they bought. Since I had abandoned my duties, they were simply liquidating my assets to keep Sierra's dream alive. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a line of credit. They had bet on my silence. They had bet that I was still the fawn, the fixer, the girl who would swallow poison to keep them warm. They bet wrong. I closed my laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I picked up my phone and made 3 calls. First, the credit bureaus. I filed fraud alerts on all 3 reports. Second, the police. I called the non-emergency line and asked to file a report for identity theft. Third, I called Jamie. "Can you recommend a forensic accountant?" I asked. "Jesus, Mallory, what happened?" "They stole my identity," I said calmly. "I need to build a case." Jamie gave me Kevin Brooks' number. I called him immediately. Then I searched for attorneys specializing in family fraud. I found Patricia Winters, 15 years of experience, 47 wins out of 52 cases. She was expensive, $450 per hour. I didn't care. This was war. I called her office. "I need to sue my parents for identity theft. Can you help?" There was a pause. Then, "Yes, but I need to ask you something first. Are you prepared to send your parents to jail?" I didn't hesitate. I'm prepared to send them wherever the law sends them. Kevin Brooks was a compact man in his 50s with gray hair and reading glasses that hung on a chain around his neck. We met at a coffee shop downtown. I spread out my evidence: credit reports, transaction histories, timelines. He examined everything for 20 minutes without speaking. Then he looked up at me. "This is textbook family fraud," he said, "and they documented everything beautifully. Do you know how rare that is?" "What do you mean?" "Most criminals try to hide their crimes. Your family charged everything to luxury stores and posted about it on social media. They created their own evidence trail. I've never seen a case this easy to prove." He traced the timeline for me. Account openings corresponded exactly with my departure. The progression showed escalating desperation. Small charges at first, testing the waters, then larger purchases as they grew comfortable. Finally, the $50,000 loan as their financial situation became critical. They used your social security number, date of birth, and mother's maiden name, all things they had access to from your documents in their house. They listed their home as your address, which meant all the verification letters went to them. They intercepted everything. Kevin pulled out his tablet and showed me a pattern analysis. "Look at this. The spending matches Sierra's Instagram posts exactly. April 28th, she posts a photo in front of a G-Wagon with the caption, 'Test driving my dream car.' That's the same day as the $8,500 charge to Mercedes-Benz. June 20th, she posts about a self-care day at the spa. That's the Buckhead Med Spa charge. They're not even trying to hide it." "Can we prove they did it?" I asked. "We can prove everything," Kevin said. "The question is whether you're ready for what comes next." Detective James Anderson of the Atlanta Police Department's Identity Theft Unit was younger than I expected. Maybe 40, with tired eyes that suggested he'd seen too much. He met me at the precinct on a Thursday morning. "Most people in your situation don't have this much documentation," he said, paging through my binder of evidence. "You built this case before you even knew there was a case. I've been managing complex systems since I was 14, I said. He smiled grimly. That's going to make my job a lot easier. Over the next 6 weeks, Detective Anderson built the criminal case. He subpoenaed the credit card applications from the banks. Every signature was a clumsy forgery of mine, close enough to fool a cursory glance, not close enough to fool an expert. He traced the IP addresses. Every application was filed from the Reed family home computer. But the real smoking gun came from the emails. When Detective Anderson subpoenaed their email accounts, he found a paper trail of premeditation. April 5th. Colleen to Sierra. I found Mallory's documents in her old room. I have her SSN, birth certificate, everything. I'm thinking we could open a small credit card in her name, just for emergencies. She'll never know. April 6th. Sierra's reply. OMG, Mom. Yes, do it. She's so ungrateful. This is what she gets for abandoning us. April 22nd. Wesley to Colleen. How much have you spent on those cards? Colleen's reply. Maybe $30,000 so far. Don't worry about it. Wesley. Jesus Christ, what if she finds out? Colleen. She won't. And if she does, she'll forgive us. She always does. That's who she is. Detective Anderson slid a printed copy of that last email across the desk to me. That right there, he said, tapping the paper, is why we're going to win. So, Patricia Winters worked out of a glass office tower downtown. When I arrived for our first consultation, she was on the phone, pacing behind her desk. She waved me in and ended her call. Mallory Reed, she said, extending her hand. I've read your file. Your family is either incredibly stupid or incredibly arrogant. Both, I said. She laughed. A sharp, quick sound. Good. That makes my job easier. Let's talk strategy. Patricia laid out 2 paths, criminal and civil. Criminal prosecution is up to the district attorney, but Detective Anderson is building a strong case. Identity theft is a felony in Georgia. If convicted, your parents could face 3 to 5 years in prison. And civil? I asked. We sue them for the full amount of the fraudulent debt plus emotional distress and legal fees. We can also freeze their assets and put liens on their property to ensure payment. I want both, I said. Patricia studied me. You understand what that means? Your family will be destroyed. Publicly humiliated. They could lose everything. They'll hate you. They don't love me now, I said. Hate is just honesty. She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was a warrior's smile. Then let's go to war. We filed the civil lawsuit on a Monday morning in September. Mallory Reed versus Wesley Reed, Colleen Reed, and Sierra Reed. Charges: identity theft, fraud, emotional distress, and conspiracy. Damages sought: $118,950 in fraudulent debt, $50,000 in emotional distress, plus all legal fees. Now comes the fun part, Patricia said. We serve them. The process server's name was Thomas Reeves. He was a professional, polite, efficient, utterly emotionless. I paid him $150 to serve all 3 defendants at the Buckhead house on a Tuesday morning. I wasn't there to see it, but Thomas sent me his report afterward. He arrived at 9:15 a.m. Wesley was leaving the house, car keys in hand, heading to get coffee.
And
Thomas
this is
approached him
stories
on the
of how I
driveway.
lie. Sometimes
Wesley
the
Reed?
people who gave you life are
Yes?
the who train you erase
You've
it.
been
and forget it.
served. Thomas handed him the papers and walked away. According to Thomas, Wesley stood frozen for 30 seconds, reading the complaint. Then he ran back into the house, shouting for Colleen. Within 2 hours, my phone, which I had unblocked temporarily to document evidence, exploded. 2 p.m. Voicemail from Colleen. Mallory, this is insane. You can't sue your own family. We were borrowing it. It's family money. This is going to ruin us. Call me back right now. 2:30 p.m. Voicemail from Sierra. You bitch, you're doing this for attention. You've always been jealous of me. This is abuse. I'm going to countersue you for defamation. 3 p.m. Voicemail from Wesley. Mallory, please, let's talk about this. We can work it out. Don't do this. Think about the family name. Think about your mother's reputation. Please. 6 p.m. Voicemail from Colleen. We'll tell everyone you consented. We'll tell them you're lying. You're going to look like a fool. Drop this, or you'll regret it. I saved every voicemail and forwarded them to Patricia. Perfect, she said. They're threatening you on record. This is going to make the judge very sympathetic to your case. Then I blocked all their numbers permanently. Damon. The lawsuit was public record. Within 48 hours, the gossip bomb detonated across Buckhead. The anonymous Instagram account at Buckhead T posted, Major T. The Reed family drama is wild. Daughter sued parents for $170,000 identity theft. Apparently, they opened credit cards in her name to fund the influencer daughter's lifestyle. That Buckhead mansion? Built on fraud. The post got 12,000 likes in 6 hours. The comments were merciless. I knew they were fake rich. Sierra Reed always seemed so entitled, now we know why. The quiet daughter was the smart one. That whole family was always weird. The real-world consequences were immediate. Wesley's few remaining consulting clients called to go in a different direction. The investor interest that had been tepid before went completely cold. At the golf club, former friends found reasons to avoid him. Colleen was asked to step down from the remaining charity boards, given the current circumstances. Her country club friends stopped calling. Social invitations dried up completely. Sierra lost 3 brand partnerships in 1 week. Companies issued statements about aligning with ambassadors who share our values. Her follower count dropped by 20,000 in 3 days. The internet had turned on her. The Reed family had gone from Buckhead elite to social pariahs in 72 hours. They were radioactive, and I had made them that way. The discovery phase of the lawsuit took 3 months. Patricia's legal team was ruthless and thorough. They subpoenaed 8 years of financial records, proving that the family had been living beyond their means for nearly a decade. They obtained all the credit card applications with forged signatures. They secured testimony from Jamie about my unpaid labor, from Professor Bennett about my character and work ethic, from bank representatives confirming the fraud. But the piece of evidence that destroyed any possible defense came in month 12. Patricia's team found an email from Colleen to Sierra, dated July 20th, 2 weeks before they took out the $50,000 personal loan. Subject: one more thing. Sierra, honey, I know you're stressed about money for your New York trip. I found a way to get a bigger loan. I'm applying for $50,000 from Lending Club using Mallory's information. We'll use it to cover your expenses for the next 6 months, and I'll pay the rent here. We deserve this. We raised her. She owes us. Don't feel guilty. Sierra's reply: You're the best mom ever. When my account blows up, I'll pay you back. Promise. When Patricia showed me that email, I felt nothing. No surprise, no anger, just cold confirmation of what I'd always known. They had never seen me as their daughter. I was a resource to be extracted, a credit line to be maxed out, a tool to be used until I broke. In month 14, we went to trial. The trial began on a cold morning in February. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, rows of benches mostly empty except for a few curious onlookers who'd read about the case online. My family sat at the defense table with their attorney, Richard Pemberton, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who specialized in representing wealthy families. He charged $600 an hour and had a reputation for getting rich people out of trouble. but reputation wasn't going to save them from evidence. I sat at the plaintiff's table with Patricia. She wore a navy suit and pearl earrings. Before the judge entered, she leaned over and whispered, "Remember, show emotion if you feel it, but don't perform it. The jury needs to see you as credible, not vindictive." I nodded. I wasn't worried about seeming vindictive. I'd stopped feeling vindictive months ago. Now I just wanted this over. Judge Sarah Hendricks entered, a black woman in her 60s with reading glasses and an expression that suggested she'd heard every lie in the book. We stood. She sat. The trial began. Patricia's opening statement was surgical. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about betrayal of the deepest kind. For 8 years, Mallory Reed served as the unpaid household manager for her family. She balanced budgets, managed schedules, and solved every problem while receiving nothing in return. When she finally left to build her own life, her parents and sister didn't respect her choice. They didn't wish her well. Instead, they stole her identity and opened 7 fraudulent accounts totaling nearly $119,000, all to maintain a lifestyle they could no longer afford. They gambled that she would never find out. And when she did find out, they gambled that she would forgive them, as she always had before. Today, we're here to show that some bets you lose. Pemberton's opening was predictable. Family complexity, miscommunication, no malicious intent. He painted a picture of a daughter who'd abandoned her struggling family and parents, who'd made regrettable mistakes under financial stress. The jury looked skeptical. The prosecution's case unfolded over 3 days. Kevin Brooks testified first, walking the jury through the forensic analysis. He showed the timeline. Account openings perfectly correlated with my departure. He displayed Instagram posts next to credit card charges. Sierra in front of the G-Wagon on April 28th. The $8,500 Mercedes charge on the same date. The pattern was undeniable. Detective Anderson testified next, presenting the email evidence. When he read Colleen's line, "She'll forgive us. She always does. That's who she is," I heard someone in the gallery gasp. One of the jurors, an older woman in the front row, shook her head in disgust. Bank representatives testified that the signatures on the applications were forgeries. A handwriting expert presented a side-by-side comparison that made the jury wince at how obviously fake they were. Then it was my turn. Patricia called me to the stand. I walked up, placed my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. I sat down and looked at the jury. 12 faces, 12 strangers who would decide whether justice mattered. Patricia's questions were gentle but thorough. "Mallory, can you describe your role in the Reed household?" "I managed everything," I said. "I balanced the household budget because my father didn't know how to use Excel. I managed my mother's social calendar, 12 to 15 events per month. I maintained my father's medication schedule. I arranged my sister's travel, wrote her college admission essays, ghost wrote her Instagram captions, handled PR crises when she posted offensive content. I negotiated with creditors to manage the family's debt. I did this from age 14 to 22. Were you compensated?" "No." "Did your sister receive compensation?" "She received a monthly allowance of $6,500 to maintain her influencer image." Patricia let that sit for a moment. "What happened when you left?" "The system collapsed. They couldn't remember passwords. My sister missed flights. My father missed important meetings. They lost the infrastructure I'd built over 8 years. And then, what did they do? They harvested my credit instead of my labor." Patricia introduced the credit reports, the transaction histories, the emails. She walked me through the day I discovered the fraud, sitting in my car outside the leasing office, opening my laptop, seeing 7 fraudulent accounts. "How did you feel when you discovered this?" I paused, told the truth. "Honestly, not surprised. disappointed that I wasn't surprised. What do you mean by that? They'd taken my labor for free for 8 years. Why wouldn't they take my credit too? In their minds, I was a resource to be extracted. They'd already extracted my time, my energy, my youth. My credit was just the next item on the list. Objection, Pemberton said. Speculation about the defendant's state of mind. Sustained, Judge Hendricks said. Stick to facts, Ms. Reed. Patricia nodded and moved on. Did you ever give your parents permission to use your identity? Never. Did you ever give them permission to open credit cards in your name? Never. Did you know these accounts existed before you discovered them while apartment hunting? No. I had no idea. Patricia sat down. Pemberton stood up for cross-examination. Ms. Reed, he began, voice dripping with false sympathy. Isn't it true that you abandoned your family without warning? I left, I said calmly. I didn't abandon them. Abandonment is what they did to me every time I asked for help and was told to figure it out myself. But you left on your graduation day, didn't you? While they were supporting your sister through a difficult time? They left on my graduation day, I corrected. They chose a spa resort to comfort my sister about a $3,500 brand deal over attending any celebration of my achievement. I simply made permanent what they'd been doing my entire life, prioritizing Sierra over me. Don't you think family members should forgive each other? I looked at him directly. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting abuse, Mr. Pemberton. I can forgive my parents for being who they are, but I'm not required to fund their delusions or let them destroy my financial future. Forgiveness and consequences aren't mutually exclusive. He tried a few more angles, but nothing stuck. I'd lived this story. I knew every detail. He was trying to create doubt in a narrative that was bulletproof. When I stepped down, Patricia gave me a small nod. We'd won this round. But the defense's case was weak. They called a family friend who testified that Wesley and Colleen were wonderful people going through a hard time. Patricia's cross-examination demolished that in 3 questions. Did you know they opened credit cards in their daughter's name? Did you know they forged her signature? Did you know the total fraudulent debt was nearly $120,000? They called a financial advisor who tried to argue the family was under extreme stress. Patricia countered with the Instagram posts showing Sierra at luxury resorts and 5-star restaurants, all charged to my credit. They didn't call Sierra to testify. Smart move. She would have destroyed their case in 5 minutes. They didn't call Colleen either. Also smart. The emails had made her sound calculating and remorseless. They called Wesley. He took the stand looking 20 years older than the man I remembered. His suit hung loose. His face was gray. When he spoke, his voice cracked. I loved my daughter, he said. I still love her. We made mistakes. We were desperate. We thought she'd understand. Patricia's cross-examination was brutal. Mr. Reed, did you love your daughter when you refused to help her pay for SAT prep courses? That was different. Did you love her when you spent $22,000 on your other daughter's bedroom renovation while Mallory worked nights to pay for textbooks? We were trying to support Sierra's career. Did you love her when you opened a $50,000 loan in her name without her knowledge? Silence. Mr. Reed, you wrote in an email to your wife. What if she finds out? Do you remember writing that? Yes. So you knew it was wrong. We were desperate. You were desperate. So you committed a felony against your own child. Is that your testimony? Wesley put his head in his hands. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. But sorry wasn't a defense, and the jury could see that. After 3 days of testimony, the jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the forewoman stood, a middle-aged black woman who'd taken notes throughout the trial. In the matter of Mallory Reed versus Wesley Reed, Colleen Reed, and Sierra Reed, we find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. Patricia squeezed my hand. Judge Hendricks addressed the court. The defendants are jointly and severally liable for the following: $118,950 in fraudulent debt, $35,000 in emotional distress damages, and $42,000 in legal fees. Total judgment: $195,950. Payment in full is due within 90 days, or the plaintiff may proceed with asset seizure. She paused. Additionally, I am forwarding this case to the District Attorney's Office for potential criminal prosecution. Identity theft is a felony in Georgia, and the evidence presented here warrants further investigation. She banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. I had won everything. 2 weeks after the verdict, my doorbell rang at 3 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. I checked the video intercom. My parents stood in the lobby, looking like ghosts. I could have turned them away. Part of me wanted to. But another part, the part that Dr. Cole had been working with for months, needed to see this through. "Send them up," I told the doorman. They knocked softly. I opened the door. They looked destroyed. Wesley had lost at least 20 pounds. His suit was rumpled, collar open, no tie. Colleen wore no makeup. I'd never seen her without makeup, not once in my entire life. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a ponytail. Both had aged a decade in a year. They stood in my loft, surrounded by evidence of my success. The exposed brick, the modern furniture I'd bought with my own money, the framed diploma on the wall, the life I'd built without them. They looked small, diminished, like props from someone else's play. Wesley spoke first. His voice cracked immediately. Please drop the criminal charges. I'll go to jail. I could go to jail." Tears streamed down his face. He was crying, truly crying. And I realized I'd never seen my father cry before. Not at funerals, not at weddings. Never! Colleen grabbed my hands. I pulled away. "We're sorry," she sobbed. "We're so sorry. We didn't realize. We didn't understand. Please, you're our daughter. Family is supposed to forgive. Family is forever." I looked at them, really looked at them. This was the moment I'd imagined 1,000 times. The moment they would come crawling back, begging for mercy. In my imagination, I'd felt triumphant, vindicated, powerful. But standing there, watching them weep in my living room, I felt none of those things. I felt nothing. Not hate, not love, just a profound, quiet indifference. It was like watching strangers audition for a play I'd already left. And I understood something, Doctor. Cole had been trying to teach me for months. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. Hate means you still care. Hate means they still have power over you. Indifference means you are free. "I won't drop the lawsuit," I said. My voice was steady, calm. They looked devastated. "But I will offer you a settlement. One time. Non-negotiable." Wesley straightened slightly. Hope flickered in his eyes. Pathetic, desperate hope. "Here are my terms," I said. "You pay the full $118,950 in fraudulent debt within 30 days. Certified checks. Cleared funds. You sign a written confession admitting to identity theft and submit it to all 3 credit bureaus to clear my record. You liquidate whatever assets necessary. Sell the house. Sell the cars. Sell the furniture. I don't care how you do it." "But where will we live?" Wesley asked. "That," I said, "is not my problem." Colleen's face crumpled. "What about Sierra? She'll have nothing. She needs help." Sierra is 30 years old, I interrupted. She has the same thing I started with at 22, herself. Let's see what she does with it. We're your parents, Colleen whispered. Doesn't that mean anything? I looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who'd called herself my mother but had spent 22 years teaching me that love was transactional and my value was purely utilitarian. You were my parents, I said. Past tense. You stopped being my parents every time you chose Sierra's feelings over my needs. Every time you took my labor and gave nothing back. Every time you told me to figure it out alone while handing Sierra whatever she wanted. You weren't my parents. You were my employers. And I quit. I walked to my desk and pulled out the settlement agreement Patricia had drafted. One more term. You sign a no-contact order. If any of you try to contact me again for any reason, email, phone, showing up here, sending messages through others, the settlement is void and I will pursue criminal charges. Wesley, you're looking at 3 to 5 years in federal prison. Is that clear? Silence. I said, is that clear? Yes, Wesley whispered. I handed them the papers. You have 72 hours to decide. Sign and comply, or I'll see you in criminal court. They took the papers with shaking hands. You've already destroyed us, Colleen said bitterly. Everyone in Buckhead knows. We can't show our faces anywhere. You've taken everything. No, I said. You took everything from yourselves. I just stopped pretending it wasn't happening. They left. The door closed. I stood alone in my apartment, and for the first time since this began, I allowed myself to feel it all. The grief, the relief, the strange hollow ache of losing people who were never really there. I called Dr. Cole. They came, I said. How do you feel? Like an orphan who just realized her parents died a long time ago. I'm only burying them now. That's one of the sanest things you've ever said to me, he replied gently. They signed. Of course they signed. The alternative was prison. Over the next 60 days, I watched from a distance as the Reed empire liquidated. The Buckhead house sold for $1.68 million in a desperate 30-day close. After the mortgage payoff, they netted $480,000. My settlement took $195,950. They were left with $284,050 to start over. The cars sold: Wesley's Lexus for $48,000, Colleen's BMW for $42,000. An estate sale cleared out the furniture and artwork for $38,000. Colleen sold her jewelry collection for $22,000. Total liquidated, approximately $650,000. They paid me. They kept roughly $454,000. They moved from the 6,000-square-foot Buckhead mansion to a 1,200-square-foot townhouse in Roswell, a suburb 45 minutes away. Rent, $1,800 per month. No housekeeper, no gardener, no pool, no status. Wesley, at 54, was functionally retired, living on Social Security and what remained of their savings. Colleen got her first job in 25 years, part-time at a boutique in the mall, folding clothes and smiling at customers who didn't know her name. Sierra moved into a roommate situation in East Atlanta and got a job at Sephora, the same brand that had rejected her for a partnership 2 years earlier. The irony was so perfect it almost hurt. I didn't seek them out. But Buckhead is a small world, and 6 months after the settlement, I drove past the old house. A new family was moving in. A young couple, 2 children, a golden retriever. The kids were running around the front lawn laughing. The garden was blooming. The house looked lighter somehow, like it was breathing for the first time in years. That house had never been a home. It had been a stage set, a facade, a monument to borrowed prestige. Now it could finally be someone's real home. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I kept driving. Tamo. 18 months after the verdict, I ran into Sierra. I was at the Whole Foods in Midtown, loading groceries into my cart when I saw her at the checkout line. She wore a Sephora name tag. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup beyond mascara. She looked ordinary. She saw me, froze. I could have ignored her, could have pretended I hadn't seen her. But something in me needed this conversation. "Hello, Sierra," I said. She stiffened. "I don't want to talk to you." "That's okay, but I have something to say anyway." "You destroyed our family," she said. Tears were already starting. "No, I refuse to keep building a fantasy. There's a difference. I had to get a real job because of you. I had a real job at 16. Welcome to reality." "You're so smug, so superior." "I'm not superior, Sierra. I'm just not willing to be your support system anymore." "I had a career," she said, voice breaking. "I was somebody." "You had 180,000 followers," I said quietly. 60% were bots. The rest didn't know your real name. You weren't somebody's somebody, Sierra. You weren't even your own somebody. She started sobbing. Right there in Whole Foods, mascara running, shoulders shaking. I felt pity. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just pity. "You know what the saddest part is?" I said. "Mom and Dad made you this way. They told you that you were special, that you deserved everything, that effort was beneath you. They broke you. And then they used my credit card to fund your brokenness." "So what am I supposed to do now?" she asked. "The same thing I did. Figure it out." "I don't know how." "Then learn. You're 30 years old, Sierra. It's time." I started to walk away. She called after me. "Do you hate me?" I stopped, turned, looked at her one last time. "No," I said. "I don't hate you. I pity you. Because you're still waiting for someone to save you. And I'm done being that person." We never spoke again. Damdas. It's been 2 years since I walked out of that house. 3 years since the graduation party that never happened. My life now looks nothing like the life I had then. I'm 24 years old. I'm a senior operations manager at TechFlow Solutions, making $95,000 per year. I've been promoted twice. I have a 401k with $18,500 in it. I have savings of $31,000. My credit score is 785, higher than it ever was before the fraud. I live in that one-bedroom loft in Midtown. I decorated it myself. No memories of Buckhead hang on these walls. Just my life, my choices, my peace. Jamie is still my best friend. I'm dating someone. Casual, healthy, no rush. I have a book club, a yoga class, colleagues who actually like me for who I am, not what I can do for them. I still see Dr. Cole once a month. We're working on the PTSD, the anxiety, the years of conditioning that taught me my value was my utility. It's getting better. Some days are harder than others. But I'm healing. What did I lose? I lost parents who were never really parents. I lost a sister who saw me as a servant. I lost an extended family that took their side without asking my story. I lost a last name I'm considering changing anyway. I lost the illusion of a family that never existed. What did I gain? Everything. I gained peace, self-respect, boundaries, independence, the ability to say no without guilt, the understanding that I don't owe anyone my destruction as proof of my love. I gained myself. Last week, a letter arrived. Return address, the Roswell townhouse. Handwriting, Colleen's. I stared at it for 10 minutes. I thought about opening it. I thought about reading whatever justification, whatever plea, whatever manipulation she'd written. Then I wrote on the envelope, "Per our no contact agreement, I am returning this unopened. Future violations will result in legal action. M. Reed." I dropped it in the mailbox and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just peace.
Chinese Banda.
Yesterday, I was sitting in the park near my apartment, reading a book, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. My phone rang. "Jamie, dinner tonight?" she asked. "Absolutely. Your place or mine?" "Mine. I'm making pasta." "Perfect. I'll bring wine." I hung up, closed my book, smiled, got up and walked toward the sunset. And I thought about everyone who's still standing where I stood 3 years ago, holding the match, wondering if burning the bridge is worth it, wondering if peace is really waiting on the other side. It is. I promise you, it is. Peace doesn't always feel like happiness. Sometimes it just feels like quiet, like the absence of chaos, like breathing without drowning, like living in a space where no one takes from you what you're not willing to give. I have that now. Some days I still feel guilty. Some nights I dream about that house and wake up wondering if I was too harsh. But then I look around my apartment, my space, my rules, my life, and I remember. I didn't destroy my family. I freed myself from people who had already destroyed me. The daughter they knew is dead. She died the night they canceled my graduation party. What was born in her place is someone I'm still learning to love. Someone who knows that she's worthy of more than crumbs. Someone who understands that you can't pour from an empty cup. And you know what? That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. If my journey resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever had to choose between your peace and their comfort, if you're still holding that match wondering if you have the courage to light it, I want you to know you're not alone. Your story matters. Your healing matters. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is walk away. If this story moved you, please subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from, or share your own story if you're comfortable. This community is built on honesty, healing, and the understanding that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up for you when it matters. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, peace is always worth fighting for. Take care of yourselves. You deserve it.